You ever met someone who seemed, I don't know, a little different, maybe a bit quiet, or they think about things way too much? And then later you realize, wow, that person is one of the smartest people I know. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on why high intelligence often hides behind some pretty surprising and honestly pretty misunderstood everyday habits. Yeah, we all have this picture in our heads of what a genius is supposed to look like, right? It's like something out of a movie. They're always on, just dazzling everyone with their brain power. But what if I told you that picture, the one we all know, is mostly wrong? The research tells a totally different story. And that is the big question we're diving into. We're going to look right past those old stereotypes and uncover the subtle, sometimes kind of strange behaviors that are actually signs of a mind that's processing the world on a completely different level. Okay, so let's start with what's happening on the inside. Because, a lot of the most powerful habits of really intelligent minds are completely invisible to the rest of us. It all takes place in this kind of internal theater. At the heart of this whole internal world is one key concept: metacognition. Now, it's not just thinking, it's the ability to kind of step back and watch yourself think, almost like an observer. This is one of the highest forms of intelligence there is, and it's the engine behind so many of the habits we're about to talk about. So, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it might look like someone overthinking a conversation they had yesterday, but what's really going on is deep analysis. Or you might see them talking to themselves, which studies actually show is a really effective way to organize your thoughts and kind of self-coach. It's all about running simulations of the future and even being able to detach from your own ideas to see if they really hold up. Here's a great way to think about it. Instead of just reacting to life as it comes, a highly intelligent mind is constantly running dress rehearsals. It's like being the director of a play that hasn't been written yet, trying out different lines, exploring different outcomes, all before the curtain ever goes up. See, this isn't just anxiety, it's strategy. Okay, so that's the inner world. Now, let's talk about how all that internal processing changes the way these minds engage with the external world. It's not just about what they think, but how they take in new information in the first place. And this isn't just a random list, it's a dynamic process. Instead of rushing to be right, they wait to be precise. They're amazing at observing patterns that others miss. They resist that powerful urge to have an immediate opinion. And they're totally comfortable saying, you know what? I don't know. But maybe most important of all, they see their own beliefs as flexible, always ready to be updated when new evidence comes along. This leads to a classic paradox, something often explained by what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. A little bit of self-doubt isn't necessarily a sign of weakness. A lot of the time, it's actually a sign of a really deep awareness of how complex a subject truly is. Real intelligence gets that it doesn't have all the answers. And this is why you'll find really smart people diving deep into topics that seem to have no practical value whatsoever. For them, it's about intrinsic curiosity. The reward isn't some tangible outcome down the road. Nope, the reward is the learning itself. It's about scratching this deep, deep itch to simply understand how things work. All right, so how does all this internal stuff, this different way of thinking, actually show up in daily life? Well, this is where the habits can start to look a little unconventional and where they often get misinterpreted by the rest of us. This chart just nails it. What might look like laziness on the surface could actually be what's called active procrastination, where the mind is deliberately waiting for a task to become more of a challenge before diving in. What seems antisocial? Often it's a profound need for solitude to process all those complex thoughts. And what we might dismiss as being oversensitive can actually be a sign of a brain that is literally taking in more data from the environment. And that need for solitude, it isn't just a feeling. There's actual data to back it up. Research from the London School of Economics found that highly intelligent people often report feeling less satisfied from frequent socializing. It's not that they dislike people. It's that the part of their brain that does all the deep thinking, the prefrontal cortex, gets overloaded easily and just craves quiet time to recharge and make sense of everything. And this idea of heightened sensory processing is just wild when you think about it. You know that little background hum from the refrigerator? Most of us just tune it out. But for some people, that sound can be a deafening roar. It's not a flaw, it's a sign of a brain that's taking in more raw information, which is a huge part of being able to spot patterns that no one else sees. So let's pull all these different threads together, because what this all points to is that we really need to move past this old school idea that being smart is just about being fast or about getting all the right answers on a test. When you put it all together, you realize true intelligence is really a collection of these core principles. It's about valuing depth over speed. It's driven by a curiosity that just won't quit. It's about being humble enough to know what you don't know, flexible enough to change your mind, and having the capacity to feel and perceive the world with this incredible intensity. And that's the real takeaway here. True intelligence isn't something you can measure with a grade or a test score. It's a way of being in the world. It's defined by your awareness, your ability to adapt, and the sheer depth of your thought. So that leaves us with one last thought. After hearing all this, which of these habits maybe rings a bell? Maybe you see them in yourself, or maybe now you see that friend who always needs alone time in a totally new light. Perhaps what you thought was just a weird quirk is actually intelligence, hiding in plain sight.